So hey YouTube, my name is Chris and this is not time specific, it's not sign specific. Maybe it's a little bit time specific, but it's not sign specific, that's for sure. So a collective reading, a global reading, let's just call it a global reading, right? Fast energy, King of Wands, then we got the King of Cups, are you kidding me? Two kings, and there's the Devil again. Shows up again and again, showed up in the Aries reading, showed up in the Taurus reading, shows up in, I think, pretty much the same position here. Fast energy, okay. But we got this. We in our mastery when it comes to our emotions and when it comes to our passions. Let's just say this is the antagonistic energy and there's the Ten of Swords. So something is radically over. And directly next to the Devil, that's a good sign. There's the Three of Cups, so a celebration. Six of Pentacles, the universe is giving something back. And then there's work to do. Okay, so then there's work to do. Interesting, interesting. And there's the World card, there's the Victory March. I do this smack in the center. Three of Cups, we've seen it before. Then there's the Queen of Wands, and then there's the Six of Swords gliding over to something better, combined with work to do. The old is over. Bottom of the deck, the Tower. Okay, so this is going to be a heavy reading, right? So let's unpack this. There's the Tower, and the Tower, we got a lot of cards here that most people don't want to see in a tarot card reading. There's the Tower at the bottom of the deck, then we got the Devil, but next to the Ten of Swords, which might in this combination actually be a good thing. So, okay, let's unpack this. So obviously the world is a mess right now. You see this when you watch the news. You see this when you go to the gas station, obviously, right? So how do we deal with this? And this is the center of it all. It's the Victory March. Even if it doesn't feel like it necessarily right now. So we're gliding over to something else, something better. The universe is trying to give us something back. We've kind of went to a dark night, a collective dark night of the soul. I mean, if you had a few great years in the last few years, then you are probably a narcissist. Or maybe you were just really, really lucky and young and innocent and the universe was just, protecting you. I'm really happy for you if that was the case for you, but most of the people had a pretty tough time during the last few years, right? So the narcissistic, antagonistic people and frequencies, they maybe had a great time, right? You just have to look at wealth inequality in the United States. I think I don't know if it's the richest 1% or something like that who own more than 90% of the rest of the population right now. So they had a great time, right? They were really making money, but the rest of us, not so much, right? So obviously very, very toxic energy. And the way this is laid here, there's the first half, which is kind of the past or the outgoing energy, and then we got the incoming energies. Overall theme here is the Six of Wands, the Victory March. It's a good reading, even if it's a heavy reading, obviously. So the last few years, these energies were just rampant. They were just devastating our collective consciousness. They were devastating the world. They were just ripping apart everything, undermining decency, authenticity, integrity, and just ripping us off. Can we just say this, right? I mean, I didn't get, maybe you were protected and maybe you're a really good soul, and I'm really happy for you, and maybe you totally deserve that, and I don't want to take that away from people who resonate with that, right? But most of us had a tough time, right? And I just don't think it's healthy for society if the top 1% owns more than the bottom 90%, right? That's kind of effed up, right? So hopefully during these darker times, during this dark night of the soul phase, probably the last few years, right? We and the best of us hopefully develop mastership, and that's what we need right now. We need mastership when it comes to our passion, fire energy, King of Wands, and we need mastership when it comes to our emotions. That's the King of Cups. And these are not the queens, these are the kings, so acting upon that, acting accordingly. So the King of Cups, the King of Wands, let's just talk about him first, is pretty much mastership over the fire aspect, over your passions. So hopefully what we need right now is exactly that. Someone who is not easily seduced by fire energy. And fire energy is always sexual energy, right? The King of Wands knows himself, knows his fire aspect, knows his sexuality, and there's nothing greater to manipulate people into guilt, fear, shame than make them ashamed about their sexuality, right? The King of Wands is not ashamed of himself. King of Wands owns his sexuality, owns his fire aspect, owns his passion, right? And keeps it in check. That's the one aspect. But is able to communicate that to the outside world and act accordingly. So you're not triggered by guilt, fear, shame. You're not triggered because you're gay, because you're bisexual or trans or this and that, right? Whatever label you can identify with. If it's not 100% heterosexual, usually there is guilt, fear, or shame associated with that, or I would say engineered around that. Why? Because it lowers your frequency. If you're ashamed of who you are, then you're easily manipulated. King of Wands is not ashamed of himself. The King of Wands owns his fire aspect, his passion, and that includes sexuality, right? And you can have all sorts of kings as long as you know them, as long as you keep them in check, right? Consenting adults, good intention, nobody gets hurt. That's a big yes, right? Whether you like it or not, but that's a big yes. That's ethically permissible. Consent, adults, grown-ups, right? Good intention, nobody gets hurt. No problem, right? If you, on the other hand, let's not go too deep into, you can find enough examples in the news lately, not just lately, but for quite a while right now, where things are not necessarily about consenting adults with good intention while nobody gets hurt, right? If you, on the other hand, are just a weird unicorn, right? By all means, love yourself like the King of Wands. Own your passion, own your sexuality, own your identity. As long as we got consenting adults with good intention and nobody gets hurt, you're perfectly fine. And then you must act accordingly. There's this one James Baldwin quote. I think, I'm not sure if I do it right, but it took me many years to vomit up all the filth that I had been thought about myself and half believed before I could walk the earth as though as I had a right to be here. Play that again because I can't repeat it. I think I didn't butcher it. James Baldwin said that. That's the king of one's attitude. You have a right to be here. You are wonderful just as you are, and do not allow anybody to tell you otherwise, because this energy wants to keep you in guilt, fear, shame. Lower frequencies. King of Wands. Oops. That's just one moment. The King of Wands very enthusiastically flew away. I got him back. No, he's not buying that BS about guilt, fear, shame. You know, if nobody gets hurt, consenting adults, good intention. No need to be afraid, no need to feel guilty, no need to be ashamed. So you have to act accordingly. You have a right to be here. You're wonderful just as you are. So that's the fire aspect. Then we got the King of Cups, right? King of Cups is pretty much acting from a frequency of self-love and self-respect. So again, it's about guilt, fear, shame, which is the energy the devil usually runs with. That's pretty much the antagonistic frequency. The devil's always trying to play you and trigger you through guilt, fear, shame. If you love yourself, truly love yourself. And truly loving yourself, that's the emotional aspect, the mastership of the emotions, basically, and acting accordingly. You love yourself wholeheartedly. That means that you understand that there's always a shadow aspect of yourself, right? It's pretty much goes in alignment with the King of Wands, right? The King of Wands is more focused on the fiery aspect, your passion, and that's more focused on your emotion. And by all means, love yourself, respect yourself. I say this again, consenting adults, good intention, nobody gets hurt, you're fine. Do not allow anybody to talk you out of this, because this is the antagonistic energy who wants to manipulate you. And if you are in that manipulation frequency, in guilt, fear, shame, you easily manipulate it. And we're breaking this cycle right now. True emotional and mastership over your passion and your emotions. King of Wands, King of Cups, and you're acting accordingly in the sense that you have every right to be here, because you're this unique, wonderful unicorn that has absolutely no reason to be ashamed of who you are, period. And this energy always tries to tell you, oh, you're dumb, or you're not good enough, or who do you think you are, you know? And as long as you just respect yourself, love yourself, respect others, you're good, period. The devil doesn't want you to be good. The devil doesn't want you to feel good. The devil actually wants good people to do bad things. And one way the devil does that is that the devil is always trying to tell you, first of all, he's triggering guilt, fear, shame, right? Oh, you watched that and that porn, or oh my God, should be ashamed of yourself. Oh, you're gay, or whatever it is, guilt, fear, shame, that's a trigger. And then usually, if you're not mature enough to love yourself, if you're not mature enough to own your own fire aspect, if you're not in this King of Cups, King of Wands energy, where you respect yourself, love yourself, usually, if you're dealing with narcissistic, toxic, antagonistic people, you shouldn't explain yourself. You shouldn't defend yourself. They want you to defend yourself, to explain yourself, to personalize. But if you truly love yourself, and there's nothing serious within you that you did or that you are, you're in this frequency of mastership. Wonderful. And then look what's happening. If you are upholding your integrity, if you're upholding your authenticity, if you love yourself, then this energy, bam, has no power. This energy only has power if you live in guilt, fear, shame. If you love yourself, if you truly love yourself, if you truly respect yourself and act accordingly, this energy has no power over anybody. So be strong enough to love yourself and act accordingly. This is a Victory March reading. This is the Six of Wands, right? Even though the Tower is here. Why is the Tower here? Because these darker energies have been kind of running the show for quite a while. Collectively, I would say, not just the last few years, it has been going on for decades, actually. I mean, inequality and, the top 1% owning more than 90% of the bottom. I mean, the bottom 90% of our population, right? Of our society, that's 90% of the population. That's not healthy, right? So if the Tower comes collectively, globally, in a setting like this, then it's a good Tower because it frees us from this illusion that if you just work harder, you can make it. If you just do a master's after your bachelor's and just, let's just work 9 hours a day, not just 8. And if we really give everything, if we just run faster and faster and give more and more, surely we can make it. But you know what? You can't. It's not, the entire system is not designed for you to make it. The system is designed to exploit you. If this system is collapsing, well, then that's actually a good thing. And you got this collapse here. That's the Ten of Swords. That's the old toxic system, the old antagonistic system, where it's really just the 1% gets it all and the rest of us can go to hell, right? If this system is collapsing, well, then good riddance, right? So, and if it collapses, it's kind of, it had it coming, right? And this system is just, the Six of Pentacles is this energy. There's one scale, 2 cards with a scale actually in the tarot card deck. Six of Pentacles, that's pretty much this card, right? Where a balance is restored. 1% own more than 90%, that's not balanced. And if this imbalanced, deeply toxic system collapses, well, for 90%, for 1% it might not be good, but for 90% of us, it might be good, even if it is probably everything but comfortable. There needs to be balance restored. Six of Pentacles. And if balance is restored, then there's work to do for all of us. We're gliding over to something better, right? But we have to work together, right? We have to overcome separation. We have to overcome this, again, very toxic, antagonistic idea that it's these people or that people, this group or that group, oh, it's all the gays or it's all the trans people or it's all this nationality or this religion, right? That's bullshit. Evil is not a form. Evil is a function, right? And what is the functionality of evil? I mean, I could talk about this all day long, but let's just break it down to one simple phrase. The functionality of evil is one-sidedness. The functionality of evil is one-sidedness. So whenever you are going into the extreme, whatever group you take, you find people in an extreme position. Whether it's, whatever label you put on that group, right? It's not that or this group. Evil is not a form. Evil is a function, and the function of evil is one-sidedness, and one-sidedness basically is extremism. Extremism. Is that the word? You know what I mean. If you go into the extreme with whatever, right? With whatever religion, with whatever political belief, with whatever, right? You always find destructiveness and, have you consented to the fact that 1% is owning more than 90% of the rest of the population? Have you consented to, grown, consenting adults, good intention, nobody gets hurt? That's a good ethical checkbox, right? Or a checklist, basically. Consenting adults, good intention, nobody gets hurt. War never checks these boxes. Absolute extreme inequality does not check these boxes. So there is evil systemically baked into what we have been living in, basically, systemically. If this is collapsing, then for 90% of us, probably for 99% actually of us, that's a long overdue victory, even if it might not feel like it. The key to make it a victory is to own your shit, own your shadow. Love yourself, own your shadow. Do not be afraid to, admit to your shortcomings, admit to your mistakes, admit to your shadow aspects. That's what Carl Jung talked about. If you don't own your shadow aspect, try not to negate it. The devil is all about negation. Love is all about transcendence and integration. So own your shit, own your shadow. That's how you achieve mastery in terms of your passion and in terms of your emotions, right? Own your shadow shit, and nobody can play you on your shadow shit. If you know your mistakes, if you know your faults, if you know your shortcomings, right? If you own them, if you're not trying to hide them, but if you actually can look at them and see, I own that. I own myself. I know myself. Then you can own up to it and nobody can play you. Nobody can manipulate you. Nobody can make good people to evil things if these people are full-heartedly owning themselves, light and shadow both. We need these people right now. I hope you're one of them, right? And this house of cards is collapsing. We see it at the gas station. We see it wherever we look. This is not sustainable. This can't go on forever. And thank God it is collapsing. Thank God it cannot go on forever, right? When it happens, then there's work to do. We need people who are fully self-actualized, who own themselves, who know that even if they have shadow aspects, they have a right to be here, right? James Baldwin quote, "Took me many years to vomit up all the filth I had had been taught about myself and half believed before I could walk the earth as though I had a right to be here. Those people who done that, these are the people who are going to make a difference, right? So be one of these people. Own your own shadow shit. Do not be manipulated and played. Do not defend, do not engage, do not explain, do not personalize. This energy is going to throw all sorts of shit at you that has nothing to do with you. Just to make you afraid, feel guilty and ashamed. Why? Because guilt, fear, shame is the way this energy works and is trying to manipulate us into doing bad things. Don't do that. What comes around goes around, or what goes around comes around. That's the Six of Pentacles. And when it happens, thank God, there's a victory march. We're gliding over to something else, but we need to work together, and there's work to do afterwards, right? There's the Three of Cups, right? So it is a celebration. It's a victory march here. Look at that. I mean, there's a victory march here, and there's a celebration, right? While this is happening. And it might sound a little weird, but I hope the way I explained it makes sense to you. So this is the situation, obviously. This is just one tarot card reading on the freaking internet. Are you kidding me? Don't take it too serious. Just take what resonates with you. Just take what you can conceptualize and understand. Don't make it fit. If you say, oh, what the F is he talking about, and you're not watching this video anymore. We are called to be architects of the future, not its victims. Buckminster Fuller. So if you are an architect, if you are a self-actualized human being who can own your own shadow, then we need you to be an architect of the future and not the victim. Live in integrity. That's definitively clarifying the King and King of Wands and King of Cups. And one more quote. Maybe it's the Baldwin quote. When you're dealing with the devil, right? When you're dealing with antagonistic, narcissistic, toxic people, don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, don't personalize. These people are just trying. It has nothing to do with you specifically. They're just trying their tricks, and when you fall for them, they got you. The moment you feel like you have to prove your worth to someone is the moment you walk away. Okay, let's just do one more card for this very intense, unintendedly so intense collective global reading, right? Peace Angel, right? That's actually I'm very happy it's here, because I talked a lot about pretty heavy stuff, right? Number 4, that's the Blue Angel Oracle deck. Peace Angel. Oh yeah, acceptance. You will find peace when you learn to love and accept yourself. Hello. You will find peace when you learn to love and accept yourself as you are. How you see yourself usually determines how others see and react to you. What you see in the world around you is your own reflection. And I'm not fully agreeing to that, because they're just a-holes in this world, and not every a-hole is a reflection of yourself. That's a very solipsistic line here, and I actually disagree with that, right? So from a unity consciousness perspective, everything is an emanation of the one, so to speak, but we are not unity consciousness, we are human consciousness incarnated, so there are assholes in this world, and they have absolutely nothing to do with you. So very careful with this. You know, I don't take everything that is written in this booklet, right? And you shouldn't take everything that I say in this reading or in any other reading. Just take what resonates with you. So you will find peace when you learn to love and accept yourself as you are. Totally agree with it. How you see yourself usually determines how others see and react to you. To some extent, that's true. To some extent, it's not true. What you see in the world around you is your own reflection. And again, to some extent, but not really. Some toxic, narcissistic people are not a reflection of yourself, right? So careful with even what you find in booklets like that. Only take what resonates with you. Only take what makes sense to you. Let's just see. Your fear, hurt, and anger can be healed through love. Totally agree. Holding on to these emotions serves only to keep you stuck in a cycle of pain and suffering. Totally agree. Accept and love yourself as you are without condition. Yeah, you should love yourself. You should own your own shadow aspects and just work with them. Be a decent human being and act accordingly. And let's just see what... You know what? I'm not 100% agreeing with this text, but the message here from me is be peace. Inner peace is the most sacred frequency you can be in if you know yourself, if you love yourself, if you respect yourself, if you even integrated your shadow, right? If you know your weaknesses, if you know your faults, if you know your insecurities, right? You can work with them. And being brave doesn't mean that you're not afraid. Being brave means that you do it anyway because you do it because it's the right thing to do. And that's what integrity and authenticity is all about. And again, the devil is always trying to make good people do bad things. And the way the devil gets people is through guilt, fear, and shame, unintegrated aspects of ourself. If you truly own these aspects of yourself, then you are making peace with them. Then you're owning up to your own shit, so to speak, right? And that's the grown-up, responsible way to do. And it's kind of the necessary precondition for peace. Because you cannot be at peace if you are at war with yourself. If you love yourself wholeheartedly, nobody can manipulate you, and then you're an agent of peace. And then that peace and that stability radiates outward into the world. That's totally sure. And you're inspiring others to do the same, right? If this person can be openly gay, like me, for example, maybe I can do that too. If this person speaks up because what he or she says just makes sense, even if it's unpopular, maybe I can do that too. So if you truly own yourself, if you show up accordingly in this world, authenticity and integrity, you're inspiring others to do, and you become an agent of peace, so to speak, in these effed up times of war, right? So be the peace angel, that's for sure. And let's just see what animal spirit comes up. Believe in yourself. Let's just do that squirrel spirit. I can't pronounce it right. That spirit, and that's squirrel spirit. So believe in yourself, right? Let's just not allow anybody to talk you out of loving yourself and respecting yourself. That's the most important thing. And evil, I say it again, is not a form, it's a function. Evil is always one-sided. Evil is always in the extreme, and evil is always trying to make good people do bad things. Don't. So, that's all I got, and I hope it resonates with you. It was a strange, very intense reading, but we're living in strange, very intense times, so maybe that's the reading for times like this. share, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think about it. And hopefully see you next time. No, ciao.